Welcome, my fabulously colourful friends. I would like today for you to go away and spend 30 minutes researching for me the lovely city of San Francisco.
Oh, I've been there.
Come back to me with your best fact, and I will see you back here in 30 minutes with fantastic San Franciscan treats.
Fact hunt!
Welcome back, my three fabulous fact friends. I asked you to go away and research San Francisco, and I gave you half an hour to do it, which should be fine because the city's like super new, right? So it should have been really easy to find out everything there is to know about San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I think I would like to start with Sam Smith. Tell me your best San Francisco fact, your best one.
Okay, this is the best.
Yeah.
Did you know that many of the houses in San Francisco are made from trees from New Zealand? Whoa.
Wait, what?
So a lot of kauri trees from the Kaipara Harbour got chucked on boats and shipped over to San Francisco. So they then used those boats. Also, those trees were used to make the ships that sailed there. We've talked about that in an earlier episode of the podcast. Anyway, it was the Pokemon episode. Anyway, it was also my fact, so I'm also referring back to that. Anyway, so those trees ended up in San Francisco, and people used those trees to build the houses. And the houses stood there for ages, and they were great. But then in 1854, by which I mean 1906.
Is that a year?
1906, there was a big earthquake. You may have heard about it. And then there were a bunch of fires because of that earthquake. One of those fires was called the Ham and Egg Fire, which I quite like because my name's Sam and my wife's name is Meg. So we're Sam and Meg, like ham and egg. Anyway. And then that fire happened because a person's chimney got damaged and they lit this fire to make ham and eggs. And it led to this fire which burnt down a bunch of the houses that were made of the kauri trees from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, bad. It was bad that it happened.
Yeah.
But it was cool that New Zealand was like part of it. Yeah.
Good part
Do
of
we
this.
know if any of the famous San Fran houses, like the Seven Sisters, are like kauri houses?
Do you mean the Painted Ladies? The Seven
Sorry, the
Sisters
Painted
are a
Ladies.
bunch of different things in other places in the world. Yeah, no, I'm not sure if it was the Painted Ladies. No, the Painted Ladies are still there. So they weren't, oh no, they were made in 1892 to 1896. Maybe let's not talk about this. I might have another fact about them later.
Okay, I'll move swiftly along.
Yeah.
That's very cool, though.
Yeah, so New Zealand Pride, we helped made San Francisco.
And then burn down.
Yeah, we helped burn down San Francisco. Yeah.
And we'll do it again.
Kenny, what is your patriotic and best San Francisco fact?
Well, it's not so much patriotic, but who here has been to San Francisco? I have. You, Tom? Nope. Okay.
Oh,
when you were in San
sorry.
Francisco, did you meet Carl?
I met
I
Carl.
think so.
Carl meant our flight got delayed.
I
Yep.
fired Carl.
Yeah, caused massive trouble. He does that a lot. He's such a jerk. No, Carl is the name of the fog in San Francisco. San Francisco is one of the foggiest places on earth, and regularly Carl gets in the way of Sam's flights and lots of other things as well. So there's two theories about where Carl got their name from. So one of them is The Giant and Big Fish, the movie from like 2003. But then if you talk, apparently, to old people from San Francisco, Carl has been called Carl for decades. Like, no one can figure out when exactly Carl started being called Carl. But nevertheless, Carl is Carl. And if you go and visit San Francisco for a couple of days, you'll probably see him too.
I know a fact about the movie Big Fish.
Mhm.
It premiered the day before Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow got married.
Very specific knowledge.
It is also, the title of that movie is also 2/3 of the name of my favorite band, Real Big Fish. Thank you so much.
So when Carl comes to town, do people say like, Carl's here?
I
Or is
believe,
it like, what's the weather forecast later? Carl.
Oh, Carl. That's the third fly
Carl.
you've killed.
Tom, what is your best San Francisco fact?
I have many, but there was an event in San Francisco where you could get White Lightning LSD and free turkeys.
That sounds sensible.
Hell yeah. So this is called the Human Be-In, which is, I tried to figure out, I was like, what is the Human Be-In? Is this like a concert? No, it was promoted as a place where people would just be in. And it was regarding a ban on psychedelics in 1967. And basically just a whole bunch of people gathered in a spot and hung out and did lots of drugs and played music and chilled. And bands would come and play, like Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead. And it was...
Tom Hanks is in it too. Forrest Gump, right? Yep.
Yes. But yeah, so it was just this weird event that ended up kind of basically kind of spurred off a lot of the hippie movement and inspired the bed in that John Lennon and Yoko Ono did. But yeah, it was just a whole bunch of people hanging out, eating lots of turkey and doing lots of LSD.
Oh, so it wasn't, when you said free turkeys, I thought you meant like live turkeys running around, because they're kind of homicidal.
You got to eat free turkey.
Scary. Oh, so they were dead cooked turkeys.
Well, if there were no drugs, there'd be cold turkeys. So,
Hey.
Kenny, what is your next most best fact?
Well, it's funny that San Francisco has a reputation as being a place where sort of this happens, and lots of drugs.
The old reefer madness.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Tom indicates, a place where lots of hippies took a lot of very exotic drugs for a lot of time, because for a long, long time, what we know of as San Francisco was called, I'm going to horribly mispronounce this, Yerba Buena, which means good herb.
Good herb.
In Spanish, up until 1846. Yeah, they missed a trick there. Think of the marketing opportunities.
Except that the herb was, we know what herb it was, though.
It was like mint, right?
It was mint, which is
wild.
Yeah, notoriously hard to smoke.
Notoriously easy to grow. Isn't mint the one thing that it's like you can't kill?
Yeah.
I've killed 2 mint plants. I'm very talented.
The good thing about smoking mint is your breath is lovely and fresh at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
The original menthol cigarette.
Oh,
San Diego is famously named after a whale's
vagina.
So
Yeah.
It's an improvement on that.
Excellent. Tom, what is your next best fact about not San Diego, San Francisco?
The Birdman of Alcatraz wasn't allowed birds. The Birdman of Alcatraz was a guy called Robert Stroud who could have really difficult start, but shot and killed a barman and went to prison. But while he was in prison, didn't really make things better for himself. Was known as a very violent prisoner, stabbed a prison guard to death, nearly got sentenced to death, got sentenced to life, got sent to Leavenworth prison, where he found a nest of sparrows and decided to raise them. And they were allowed to keep pets, so he had them, and he made a cage for them and looked after them, and was actually very good. He ended up with about 300 canaries in his cells, which must have been very, very smelly. He wrote 2 books because he studied the canaries and their diseases. So he actually wrote The Diseases of Canaries and Stroud's Digest on the Diseases of Birds. So he actually made like a big contribution to avian health. But yeah, then when he got moved to Alcatraz, because he was also a very dangerous prisoner, not allowed birds. So yeah.
It's funny, of all the prisons in America, he got sent to Alcatraz, because do you know what Alcatraz means in Spanish?
El Pelican.
Exactly. So maybe they were just thinking of him.
There are no pelicans on the island as well. They all
No,
died.
mostly gulls.
It could be really good for escaping. You just sort of jump in the beak and it would fly off.
That is not how
Thinking
pelicans
of
work.
cartoons. I have a question though, Tom. You skipped over the bit where he managed to evolve canaries from sparrows, which I'm really interested in.
Yeah, he was actually also a wizard.
Oh, cool. Okay. Wizard.
Which is like one of those lines they just don't drop in, which is amazing that they managed to keep him in a prison for so long. But no,
It sounded like he might have had some of that LSD and thought that the sparrows were canaries the whole time.
look at all these turkeys.
Look at my
running
beautiful
around.
canaries.
The vision of that clip in Snow White where she...
Oh,
Yeah, but the birds
and
land and
it's
he's
just a guy in his undies tripping out.
standing
in
out
a
there.
Sam, I would like another fact from you, please.
Kenny, you just mentioned Snow White. San Francisco is home to the Walt Disney Family Museum, which you can see the Oscar that Walt Disney won for Snow White. Oh, not just one Oscar. It is a full-size Oscar accompanied by 7 dwarf-size Oscars, and it is adorable. And a couple of other things about about the Walt Disney Family Museum. There is a wonderful model of all of Disneyland, but it's not Disneyland that exists today. It's like the ideal Disneyland. So it's got a bunch of old things. It's the size of a large room, and it's incredible. You have to look up a picture of it. I went there and I looked at it for 1 hour.
Wow.
Just that model. The whole museum's
That's
great
it.
as well.
Yeah, that's Sam's second fact.
I did just right. Talk about Disneyland for a bit. Yeah, it's quite weird. The Walt Disney Family Museum is in San Francisco, a city that they're not from. They just have this house here. I've got other facts to say, but I'll save them for other facts because people keep stealing my facts.
Tom, I want another fact from you now.
San Francisco was the location for where the world record was set for the longest time spent masturbating. During the 1999 by me. That's why they won't let me back, because I was only there for 9 hours and it was a 10-hour record.
Hill in San Francisco is called Knob Hill as well, so that's quite fun.
Yeah, it's great. A sex toy store set up the Masturbate-a-thon as part of Masturbate Month. So here are some prizes that you can get. So you have the opportunity to win prizes. Basically, people turn up just like the human bee-in, but it's the human wank-in. And participants get the opportunity to win prizes for the most orgasms achieved, the longest time spent masturbating, 10 hours, and the farthest distance ejaculated.
Wow.
Very gender privileged competition.
Jen, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, I kind of hope you were going to say that there were like points for style or like unconventional technique or something, but no, just
The back end.
Sam, please tell us something less horrifying.
Did you know that San Francisco is home to fortune cookies?
Yes.
Fortune cookies. There is a garden in San Francisco, it's the Japanese garden, and there was a bakery there, and so there was a guy, and I wrote down and I read his name, but I didn't write it down. Did anyone else get it?
Makoto Higiwara.
Thank you, Kenny. That guy. I've stolen a fact from Kenny. Yes. He made brought fortune cookies, made them into a thing. People think that they're Chinese. They're not. They're American. Also, he was Japanese, so it's doubly racist. So it came from this bakery in this part that is now in the Japanese garden, which is in the big park that's in San Francisco. I liked the moment just then when Kenny crossed a line through his fact. That felt great.
Kenny, do you have any facts left for us?
Well, I've got lots of facts, full of facts, lots of other things too. So San Francisco, lovely place to live, very expensive place to live, but a place where it's impossible to live forever or at least be buried. So they closed revenge because everyone wants to live in San Francisco. They closed all of the cemeteries, shipped everyone out of town, reburied them, stole all of their headstones, and made a park by the seaside, which is hilariously called the Wave Organ, to go with your Knob Hill reference.
Just a clarification, Kenny. You said they moved everyone out and reburied them. They were dead at the time. They didn't take everyone out of San Francisco, bury them alive, and then wait for it to repopulate.
Stay alive for long if you bury them deep enough.
Yeah, but there are 2 remaining cemeteries in San Francisco. It's just very, very difficult to get buried in them. And there's a pet cemetery there as well.
I put my hand up like 3 or 4 times just then to be like, actually, I've got additional notes, and then Kenny added those additional notes every time.
Just so the score is, Sam took one of my facts. How many facts did I take off Sam just then?
So far you've taken 6, and Tom's taken 2.
Sam has 10 facts, and he was so happy about it. It was taken 9.
You've taken 9 of them. So I'm right at this. Currently, I am breaking down my current facts into smaller facts.
Can we have a small morsel of fact?
Did you know that the Golden Gate Bridge was born the exact same day as Alan Carr? Not Alan Carr, British comedian. Alan Carr with 2 L's, the director of Grease, which is why Danny Zuko in the original drafts was going to be called Sam Francisco. But they changed it because people were like, no, that sounds like San Francisco. We're instead going to call him Danny Zuko.
I just said I prefer San Francisco. I think that's a great name.
Okay, thank you so much, because I actually made that part up. The birthday thing is the same, but the San Francisco thing I made up because I was filling in the rest of the half fact. Oh, can I add another part to the Golden Gate Bridge is, I'm not sure if this is true now, but when it first opened, it was 420 plus another 0 feet long, 4,200 feet long, which is quite apt for Smoke 'em Up Johnny, San Francisco, Weedathon, Blaze Up, hashtag Bong Life. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for those of our listeners subscribing to our audio podcast, Sam just made the marijuana cigarette smoking signal with his hand, like someone who definitely does that often.
I have literally never done it, and I presume that's how they do it.
This is a video I saw where someone was going, when men go to the toilet, do they hold it like a joint or like a cigarette? And someone replies with, up to their mouth.
What do you mean, hold it?
I always assume that's what the attendants were for. Kenny, please move us on.
During the gold rush, Levi Strauss invented jeans in San Francisco. And he sold them off to all of the hunters coming in to dig up gold and in the big California gold rush. So,
is that why hippies all wore jeans? Because they all lived in San Francisco.
Hippies wear clothes?
Bell-bottom jeans and the little jean shorts and
maybe, but there is a
Boot
Levi
straps with the
Square
fur.
yeah.
Thank you.
There's a Levi Square in San Francisco, which is named after him, and Levi Street, and Levi this and Levi that.
The original name for jeans was going to be Danny Zuko, but
Yeah.
Tom, tell us a thing.
You will never see a man on horseback on the Golden Gate Bridge. But one time you did see an ostrich. So there are a lot of things you're banned from doing on the Golden Gate Bridge. For example, as Kenny pointed out, you can't bury people, so you can't throw their bodies off the side. You also can't throw ashes off the side.
I think that's most bridges. I don't think that's specific to the Golden Gate Bridge.
You are not from Taranaki, Jen. That's what our bridges are for. And then roads were like a secondary byproduct. We had to put the body somewhere. You're not allowed to throw ashes over. In Time to Kill, A View to Kill, the James Bond film, they were going to throw a dummy off of someone jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, but they weren't allowed to because of that rule. You're just not allowed to go across on horseback because there's cars and horses get scared. But in 2005, someone was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge with an ostrich, and the ostriches, according to the driver's words, their bum broke the window, and the ostrich climbed out the window and for 10 minutes paraded around on the Golden Gate Bridge until it was eventually captured.
This wasn't like a professional ostrich transporter. This was just someone taking an ostrich out for a day trip.
No, the ostrich was driving.
Oh, the ostrich was driving. Okay. Are ostriches specifically banned from the Golden Gate Bridge? Is this a Lord Byron's pet bear situation?
No, we're in an earbud situation where there's no rule specifically saying that you're not allowed ostriches on the Golden Gate Bridge. Ain't no rule.
Kenny.
Up until 1867, San Francisco had an ugly law, and you were not allowed to go out in public if you were ugly. Which begs the question, like, what do? Do you just hide in a basement like a troll? Like,
Yeah.
But it's since been rescinded, so ugly people are not able to visit San Francisco. Tom, this might be your chance.
When they repealed the law, was there like a great flooding the streets of just proper mingers, or like what happened?
I assume they came up from the basements, like they've seen in Fantasia where the demons emerging. Like,
It's like Night of the Living Dead. There's like hands bursting through the soil, and you're like,
take me to Baba Gump.
Tom, one more fact from you.
All right, here we go. So we all know about Pier 39. Sam, I hope this takes... No, it won't take a peek. So we know about Pier 39. It's a very famous landmark in San Francisco. I'm really hoping this Sam feels like I'm going to take one of his facts here. Yeah. It's been around for a very long time, and it had lots of attractions. One of those attractions, at one point, was that tourists would dive into a 10-foot pool filled with Jell-O to retrieve personal items stranded at the bottom. That was just a thing they would do. That was like an activity. And then I found out that later on, it fell out of favor for a carousel, which you can't dive into. There's nothing sexy about a carousel.
You can dive onto it and then you go round for a bit.
I have a question though. These personal items in the Jello,
Children.
did they just pick up the lost property at the end of every day and dump it into the Jello, and then you had to come pick it up the next day or did you like walk up to the top of the diving board, drop your wallet in, and then go, oh no, I guess I'm gonna jump into the Jello?
It's pretty weird. I mean, like, I think in front of us they would just dive in, and there was actually a big event they did in 1980 where 50 people dived on St. Patrick's Day at the Jello jump, where they jumped into green goo for multiple sclerosis, which is pretty good. But each entrant had to. That's my disease.
I have multiple sclerosis.
And you're wearing green.
He's doing my fact, Jen. This is cultural appropriation.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give it to him if he can finish it
You're going to have
appropriately.
to give him MS.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Welcome to the club, Tom.
It could take him 10 hours to finish it appropriately. We heard that earlier on.
But it was khakis. It was khakis and things like that. So yeah,
Look what colour my trousers are. They're khaki.
Hey,
They keep stealing my facts.
you're blowing this flight
Employees.
open, Tom.
employees would take the tourists' personal items and throw them into the jelly. I think
It's a bit of a
willingly.
shakedown gone wrong. Sam, finish us off with the 10-hour culmination of that.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the painted ladies, which we talked about in a previous episode on the Full House episode, but the pool, they were designed and built between 1892 and 1896 by a man called Matthew Kavanagh, and he lived in the greenhouse, which is a house that is actually green. It is on the corner. It's not one of the 6 painted ladies. It's the 7th one that you kind of alluded to before, Jen, despite it not being a painted lady. That was the home of Matthew Kavanagh, who built them. He lived next door to these 6 ones, presumably dying before Full House aired in 19... he probably did because he built them in 1892.
I seem to remember doing a walking tour in San Fran where they said something about these are the painted ladies, but everyone takes a photo of the 7.
There are 6 of them, and then the 7th house is on the corner, and it's a wider house, and it's much bigger.
Yeah.
It's more of a mansion than the thinner painted ladies.
Ooh. So he was a la-di-da.
So he designed all of them and then went, oh, accidentally my house has a slightly bigger back.
That's right. I'm going to have the corner house, and I'm going to paint it green so I can tell people I live in a greenhouse. And people will be like, isn't that made of glass? And I'll be like, no, it's the color green. I'm Matthew Kavanagh.
Look at me in this greenhouse throwing stones.
This is a fast fact round. Kenny, go.
So the Golden Gate Park is bigger than Central Park in New York, and it has bison in it. So you can go and see bison, even though you can't see bison in like most of the US.
Tom, do you have a fast fact for us?
I do. So, you know the flag of California with the bear? The bear's name was Monarch, and it was one of the last grizzly bears in California and lived in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco.
Oh, is Golden Gate Park like a petting zoo?
No, it's a grizzly zoo. Just one.
Only if you're really brave.
Sam, one last final fast fact.
While they were building the Golden Gate Bridge, they put a safety net under it to catch anyone who fell off, and they saved 19 people's lives. However, they also 11 people fell off that and died. And supplementary fact, the Golden Gate Bridge has only ever been closed twice, once for FDR and once for Charles de Gaulle. But it had also been closed because
Ostrich.
It didn't get closed for an ostrich. It got closed because 2 black-tailed deer were running around on it. So it's been closed for 2 people and 2 deer.
Why didn't they keep the net up? It was saving lives.
It's their way of controlling the population.
My favourite facts from this show were, the fact that we know that ham and eggs caused a fire is amazing. I love that very much. I love that there's a frog called Carl. I really appreciate that they have just banned death. I think that's a great strategy, and more cities should follow that. I love that an ostrich took over the bridge for a short time, and I love that they passed a law against being ugly. But I think my favourite fact of the show has to be that tourists used to get mugged, and they passed it off as some kind of weird attraction by throwing their belongings in jelly.
Oh, Tom Adams! finally gone and done it.
Thank you as the only person who has not been to San Francisco. I deserve this.
Right, thank you very much for joining us on this journey through San Francisco's storied history and bizarre true facts. If you have another fact that you would like to share about San Francisco, please add it in the comments below or tweet it to us at our handles, which are displayed below our names on the YouTube video. I forgot what things are called. And if you are listening to us as a podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe us. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And join us again next week when Tom will be picking something for us all to investigate. So it'll probably be either animals or plants.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.